All right, so today I want to talk about this tweet from Peter Schiff, and it's tied into this whole everything that's going on now, basically. He goes on to say the financial crisis of 2008 was a cakewalk compared to this. All that happened in '08 was real estate prices fell, borrowers defaulted, lenders lost money. Today, global commerce is grading to a halt. Production is shutting down. The crisis is economic, not merely financial. Now, he said this on March 16th, so again, at the time of me putting this out, things may have changed. So just take all this stuff, as a grain of salt. But I think the big picture, I think, is going to hold true, regardless of the details of what I say. But we knew this stuff. We knew this was coming at some point, rather than or at some point or another. And the fact that something like this can do so much damage just goes to show just how weak the economy was to begin with. And that includes the states too. Like I always talk to that whenever people ask, well, how do you think Trump is doing and all that kind of stuff, or the topic of Trump comes up, the first thing you have to do is say, well, compared to what? Compared to someone like Justin Trudeau or even Obama to a lesser degree, he's actually doing not bad. Justin Trudeau is doing very good. But compared to what he could be doing, he's not actually doing that good of a job. Now, like I always mention, I would vote for him just based off the fact that the person on the other side in 16 would have been a disaster. The person on the other side in 20 will be a disaster, whether it's socialism or whether it's a guy with Alzheimer's. I mean, those are both would be disasters. So. Um, but like I say, that's the states. But I mean, a lot of this stuff is tied into with Canada. Like I say, Canada's economy is even weaker than the states. I think the states will bounce back from this relatively well. Canada, not so much on the other hand, because the Trudeau government is so, it depends. They're either incredibly incompetent or incredibly just they, in other words, I mean, a good way of putting it basically is that they want, the economy to be destroyed. And I think that it's more on that end because when you think about it, when the economy is not doing very good, people are more likely to rely on the government to get by, whether it's, paying their rent, all that kind of stuff. And the more people that are dependent upon government to get by, the more votes that the we're going to give you more and more free stuff until the end of time party, namely the Liberals in Canada, are going to get elected. So it's just simple. They want power, and it's very lucrative too. Like I mean, a lot of these politicians become multi-million. I mean, you always have the left complaining about the greedy rich and how greedy they are and all this crap, but yet they'll never criticize a politician for being a multi unless they're a Republican who or a conservative who like gets like super PAC money or stuff like that. But never the Pelosi's and those kind of people. And in Canada, it's not quite as bad. In the States, it's worse just because there's so much more money to be worked with down there. But you never hear these leftists complaining about that. Gee, I wonder why. It's almost like you only care about it when it's people working in the free market that are, corrupt and making more money than they should be. And like I said, that's just a double standard of the left. Is that you know um, power naturally corrupts people in the free market, but it doesn't naturally corrupt people in government. Like that's literally the leftist logic, and it makes so little sense that it's insane. And if anything, power would be less likely to corrupt in the free market because the free market you have to actually in a true free market because you actually have to deal with the ramifications of it and be punished justly. The government, all the everyone else in the government, especially when you're in a ruling party, the ruling party just covers for you, right? Because it would be a scandal upon them to have all this stuff come to light. So but again, I'm kind of jumping topic to topic here. The main thing I wanted to bring up too is that I've been saying this stuff ever since I mean, I've only been making videos for like a year. But people like Peter Schiff, who's a pretty good follow on Twitter and on YouTube and all that kind of stuff, um, he's been saying this kind of stuff for years. Like I've been listening to his podcast for 3, 4 years, and he predicted the '08 crisis, one of the only people literally out there that predicted it. And he predicted, he's been saying for a while, yeah, another one's coming. And here it is. And the problem is that the problem, like I mentioned yesterday a little bit too, is that the government solution is always just more of the same. It's just more welfare, more money printing, more regulations, more all this stuff. And the reason why they do it is it's just a quick fix. And that's kind of the difference between the left and the true actual free market kind of people, is that the left, I would say, I guess everybody, I would say not the left, everybody but people who believe in a free market, who believe in actual capitalism. Everybody but them thinks that, oh, well, they're the quick fix kind of people. And don't tell me you're not, because if you weren't, you wouldn't support all this kind of stuff. You would have been basically, I mean, in a nutshell, you would have believed in less regulations, um, the government not spending way more money than they have, and this kind of stuff would have already happened. The reason why I always talk about this kind of stuff is that if someone like Peter Schiff, or even me to an extent, were running things, we would have let the economy contract a little bit in the past and not spent more money than we have. And that would have, yeah, we would have had a temporary slowdown, but it would have been a small one. It wouldn't have been a massive one right now where very, large amounts of people are going to lose their job, businesses are going to go out of business, all that kind of stuff. And, there's going to be a lot of trouble. And basically, to bring it full circle, I just wanted to make a video on this because you're going to have all these people out there. And like, I just want to kind of get a little bit ahead on the curve on this one. Everyone's gonna, oh, this is capitalism's fault, just another failure of capitalism. Like, no, it isn't. This kind of stuff happened because the government is terrible at running things. Their solution is always just quick fix, and when your solution is quick fix over and over and over again, eventually the long run hits you. And that's what's happening. If the government solution wasn't always quick fix, well, guess what? The government would have money to spend right now. If the government didn't run massive deficits every year, they could run a deficit this year and have it actually be realistic, and be able to pay it back realistically, and actually keep the economy going right now. But because they don't, their only solution right now is to print massive amounts of money, which creating more inflation, which hurts the poor. And that's the other thing too, for all you people who defend this kind of stuff and disagree with me. You're the kind of people that want mass inflation, which hurts the poor the most, because if you're living paycheck to paycheck, or right now not even paycheck to paycheck, inflation is going to hit you the hardest. If you're making 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 grand more a year than you need to get by, well, 5% inflation doesn't really matter to you. You just make a small cutback, you barely even feel it. But if you're living paycheck to paycheck, you better believe you're going to feel that inflation. So for all the people defending these policies that I'm arguing against, well, you're defending mass inflation, which hurts the poor. So again, that's why I always say too, the left always accuses the right of hating the poor. It's actually the other way around. The left just claims to like them because they want to steal stuff from the rich. It's just classism basically, which is why they always accuse they always collectively judge the rich. So it's just more and more projection. So anyway, I'm gonna leave the video there. If you'd like to, make sure to hit that like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more.